Hey there guys, and welcome back to Mana Down Under. For this video today, it's going to be like those body wash kits you get for Christmas that you don't really want, but they're there. So for this commander deck idea, we are looking at Zedruu the Greathearted. Like all commander deck ideas, just me going through the commander, talking about how the deck functions, how you might want to play it, and maybe some cards to go along with it. No hardcore deck list here, but anything I do mention in the video I will put down below. So Zedruu, 4 mana in Jeskai, a 2/4, and Minotaur Monk. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. So own implies that you came from your deck. It's your card, but control is currently who's controlling it on the board. And then it has pay 3, one of each color. Target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. So the whole deck is built around giving unwanted gifts to everyone, getting further life and draw out of giving these gifts as a reward. And we're going to try and win through a slow, methodical way. You don't want to just seem like the aggressor on the board. And it's best in a multi-way game, definitely. You want to be the person sitting on the side of the table, changing people's permanents now and then. You don't want to be too big of a threat. You want to slowly find your advantage. So the deck is very powerful with one extra card to consider. Paradox Haze gives you a double upkeep. So the fact that Zedruu triggers on our upkeep gives us X life and X draw. Can't complain. So what gifts do we want to give people? Well, we want to tax them if we can. So the first one everyone thinks of is Delusions of Grandeur, where 4 mana, you gain 20 life on entry, has an upkeep cost of 2, then 4, then 6, then 8, but when it leaves, the controller loses 20 life, so you give it to your opponent. So you gain 20, gift it off, there you go. Same idea with Delusions here, you gain 10, when it leaves play the controller loses 10, but it has no sacrifice cause to it, but there is a lot of enchant removal in Commander, so it shouldn't be too hard. Then Transcendence is a weird one. So you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. If you have 20 more life, you lose the game. Whenever you lose life, gain 2 for every 1 life lost. So if you can time it right, you can save yourself from death, get your life back through Zedruu and this card itself, and then gift it off to your opponent, who hopefully has more than 20 life, and then they're just dead. They're gone. Amazing. Bronze Bombshell is just 7 damage to your opponent pretty easily in this deck. Pyromancer Swath does increase their burn output, but it removes their hand. At end of turn they have to discard the hand. Pretty easy in this deck. Now Celestial Dawn isn't the powerhouse that it used to be. This actually used to be like a one-sided Blood Moon back in the day before the rule change, because people can use any mana now. They can produce it, but yeah. So the breakdown is all lands are plains. All your cards in your deck on the field are white, all your mana symbols come white, and it had you may spend white mana as though it was any color. The original rule change back in the day said you couldn't produce colors outside of your identity, so it screwed people. So you could run it now if you want to mess with people's mana rocks, that would still affect it, or if you have a playgroup that still play the olden rules. So I thought I'll just mention it here. Grid Monitor and Steel Golem both stop you playing creatures. Oh well, you're not playing creatures, you're gifting this away to someone. So you can lock your opponent out of creatures pretty easy with these cards. Form of the Dragon's a fun one. So they get to deal 5 damage to target creature or player on upkeep, but at end of turn, the controller's life is set to 5. So you play it, you gift it off. At the end of their next turn, they go down to 5 life. Sure, they do hit you for 5 damage, but if they're at 5 life, I'm sure we find a kill there pretty easy. Goldnight Castigator, if you give them this 4/9, they're going to take double damage. Hopefully a good trade-off in a multi-way game, it might incentivize people to go for them. Jinxed Idol, I like it because it's got its own built-in exchange. Cards that can move around the table without having to pay Zedruu's cost are great in this deck. The horse, just do it like the Trojans, mate. So you give him the horse when it enters, which is great because it's going to trigger Zedruu, and you get tokens out of it. You can't really go wrong with that one. Aggressive Mining. I think it was actually Notch which designed this card, if I remember right. Controller cannot play lands, so you gift it off to them, they can't play lands, but they can sack lands to draw 2 cards. If you get out early enough and maybe a little bit of land destruction, you can cut them off lands for the rest of the game. Humble Defector is a staple in the deck. Tap to draw 2 cards and someone else gains control of it. Sure, they're going to get 2 cards, but you're going to get extra out of Zedruu. Rust Elemental is a favourite of mine. Upkeep controller has to sacrifice an artifact. If they can't, you tap down the elemental and they lose 4 life. So if they're not an artifact deck, you can really just slowly hemorrhage them across the game. And other great ideas to consider are cards that are redundant. So it doesn't matter who controls the card, everyone gets the bonus. For example, Howling Mine. Everyone gets to draw an additional card in the turn. but it doesn't matter who controls the Howling Mine. So you might as well just gift it off to someone. You're still going to draw through it, but you get the additional draw through your commander. Other thing to note, in your white-blue removal, you have a lot of enchantment exile removal. When it enters the battlefield, removes the target permanent that you want to get rid of, and then you gift it off to someone, it still keeps whatever it locked down underneath. So you can remove all your opponent's threats, then give them the enchantment. You're 2 for 1ing. Pretty easy. So, of course, in that saying, take all the blue and white enchantment removal you want, and there's lots of good stuff. Now into the re-gifting part of the deck. Thieves Auction is one of the funnest cards I've ever played with in Commander. The idea is you put all non-token permanents into a big pile, starting with you take one, then your opponents take one. In theory, you can change the entirety of the game, like every permanent who's controlling it is shifted. Obviously play Commander after you do this because you don't want to lose your Commander, but you can have so much value through Zedruu in a big auction. In a 4-player game, a lot of fun. So other re-gifting cards to consider, Trickery here, lets you exchange lands, same idea with shifting borders. Cultural exchange, you can change players' armies over essentially, even between 2 different players. So if you're in a 3-player game, you can have so much fun with it. Puca's Mischief is just a constant form of exchange in the deck, which is rare actually. Most exchange abilities are a one-off. To have a recurring one, very strong in the deck. Donate, it's a reserveless card, about $10, but it's like the figurehead of this deck. That's what a lot of people think of. Harmless Offering, similar enough card. Bazaar Trader, similar idea as well. These are like one-sided donations, but they help us give away things so we can start getting our Zedruu mechanics online. Perplexing Chimera can be pretty fun. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may exchange control of the Chimera with the spell while it's still being cast. So if it's a permanent, you get the said permanent. Now, that's good, they're getting control of Chimera, Zedruu will do a thing, draw extra cards, and we get whatever we just stole pretty much. But chuck a Homeward Path in there, get your Chimera back again, and nick their next spell. Just saying, could be fun. Now how do you win this deck? Because you don't really have much of a creature base, you've got weird removal, weird control, it's a very different deck. You want to use cards that do a lot of pinging based on draw, because Zedruu draws so many cards on deck like this. So Niv-Mizzet, the Fireman, and Parun are the way to go, because whenever you draw a card, you deal 1 damage. Parun says whenever a player casts into the sorcery, you draw an additional card. Psychosis Crawler, each opponent loses 1 life for each draw you do. Since you have so much life through Zedruu as well, Aether Flux Reservoir could be quite an easy option. Just pay the 50 life, dome someone for 50, there's the win. Other options are like the Locust God, every time you draw you create another 1/1 flyer with haste, instant army. Approach to the Second Sun can be quite viable as well, because it digs it down 7 deep. If you cast the second Sun, you win the game. Zedruu draws you a lot of cards, be really easy and viable to pull off in this kind of deck. In the same idea as that, Laboratory Maniac, you draw a lot of cards in this deck, you can really ramp it up further on as well. You could just deck yourself and try and win that way as well. If you want to go the life game route, fill out our Sovereign, because Zedruu is getting you a ton of life as well. Might as well just get the 40 and try and win the game there too. And, well, saying all of this, the Archive breaks this deck quite a bit. If you gain life, double it up. If you draw, double it up. If you can't win with that, you're probably not going to win the game. So, in lands, obviously pick all your 3-color lands you need to run red, blue, and white. The only other lands I really think would matter would be Rainbow Veil, because it can shift control. So you get the mana, any mana you need, and then it's a permanent on your opponent's side of the board, so you get extra draw through Zedruu. Forbidden Auction's really fun to donate, because if they use it, you're going to get a token, and it's another permanent they control that you own. The Kerr Keep, you can donate the tokens off, that's part of the idea. You give them 0/1s that aren't a threat, they still give you Zedruu draw. As for the rest of your deck, run typical blue-white control. You don't have much of a creature base on the ground, so you want to have like Propaganda and Ghostly Prison to lock down enemy creatures. Clone-like effects help you have more copies of key pieces for redundancy. Suntine's a really good option in the deck, because of a lot of enchantment removal is 3 mana or under, so you can resurrect it or return key pieces. And run your typical board wipes, Wrath of Gods, counter spells that you normally run in blue-white. Ones that are better in your playgroup as usual. But yeah, Zedruu is a fun commander. It's very different, and that's why I love Zedruu. Not many players really know how to fight a Zedruu deck or play against it, because it's so different. Who gives you permanence in Magic willingly? Like, no one does. But it's a fun deck, it's different, it's not tier 1. Don't expect to go into like a sweaty game of Commander and try and beat everyone. but variety is the spice of life. I love having someone playing something really different or oddball commanders. Alright, what do you think of Zedruu? Is it very Christmassy, flavorful like my ugly sweater here? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys, and have a good one. See yous. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to like and sub and click the bell icon for notifications. It's greatly appreciated. And if you have any deck or video ideas, just suggest them down below. And have a good one, guys.